I'm Christine Stavropoulos.
Και εγώ ο Νίκος Σαμίδης. Και αυτό είναι το Greek Podyssey, το podcast της Ομογένειας.
A podcast for Hellenes worldwide, sharing stories, culture, identity, laughs and a little bit of tsugrisma along the way.
Γιατί μπορεί να φύγαμε από την Ελλάδα, αλλά η Ελλάδα δεν έφυγε ποτέ από μας.
Welcome to another episode of the Greek Podyssey. You're with Christine.
And Nikos.
We've got a wonderful program planned for you today, but first we want to mention our sponsors.
Let's go to our sponsors. This podcast brought to you by Roasting Warehouse.
From Melbourne
to Brisbane,
and now in Athens,
Roasting Warehouse, shaping the global coffee culture.
dream big.
And life is better with great coffee. Roasting Warehouse.
Nico, have you ever thought what the life of a diplomat would be like? Traveling to different countries, experiencing different cultures, and representing your home country in all these other foreign places and mingling with Greeks from around the world.
And actually to be an ambassador
Of Greece.
of Greece.
We're going to find out what that is like today. We've got a very special guest. We've got the Consul General of Greece to Sydney, Mr. John Malikourtis. Give you a little bit of a background. He was born in Athens. He joined the diplomatic service in 2002 and has served in various positions in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, both at headquarters in Athens and abroad. So we're going to find out what that abroad is, where Mr. Malikourtis has been. But let me take this opportunity to say that Mr. Malikourtis' tenure in Australia has drawn to a close, sadly. I have no words to express the tenacity, the passion and the enthusiasm of Mr. Malikourtis during his tenure. He has attended numerous events, reached out to the people, has attained the love and respect of everybody that has come into contact with him. We're very sad to see him leave. And we would love to see him back at some stage, hopefully as ambassador. But without further ado, I would like to introduce to you Mr. Yannis Malikourtis. Welcome to our Greek
Podyssey, Mr. Malikourtis.
Thank you to both of you for having me. I wish you all the best in your now. I'm sure it will be very successful given your experience and the fact that you're very popular amongst the Greek community.
Thank you for your kind words. And thank you also for taking the time to be our guest on the podcast today. I know how hectic it would be packing up your life over the last 3 years to return back to Athens. So your time is very much appreciated. And of course, we're probably the last interview that Mr. Malikourtis is going to have whilst in Australia. So we're very fortunate.
I hope it's the lucky one, Mr. Malikourtis.
So let us start with what I said in my introduction, what it would be like to be like an ambassador of Greece and traveling to different places abroad, experience that local culture, but also the Greeks of the various countries or cities you've been to. We're very curious to know how you equate Greeks that you've encountered in Sydney, or whether there are differences in how they embrace their Hellenism and their culture in different parts of the world.
First of all, to be very honest, this was first purely, exclusively a consular position. My previous jobs were more political in the sense, more closely linked to international relations and policy. So it is the first time that I have such a close contact with the Greek community. I've served in New York, but that was in the United Nations, not the consulate. Then I went to Jordan, where I was also head of the consular office. So I had some contact with small community, nothing compared to Australia. In Jordan, if I recall, there were about 1,000 Greeks, or not even, with a very different profile and different challenges. Then I went to the UN in Geneva. So there I didn't have much contact with the Greek community, although from the little experience I had there, again, it is a very different profile. In Switzerland, we have Greeks who are also, because of geographic proximity, are closer to Greece. They travel back and forth. It's not the same as it is here or in the United States. And then I went to Cyprus, and Cyprus is a different story compared to the diaspora.
So let's start with Australia and the Greeks that you've encountered here. How do you equate the Greek culture here in comparison to Greeks in Greece? Are we more traditional? Do we retain those traditions of dance and music and more so
Yes.
than what they do in Greece today?
I would say that mixed picture when it comes to that. There's everything in the community. You could argue that it is like a mosaic. Everyone has a different role and you can find everything. I remember a few months ago, I went to a concert on Greek rock organized by the Greek Festival of Sydney. And that was refreshing because I am more a rock fan than a traditional music fan. So I enjoyed listening to Greek rock here in Sydney. In general, because the bulk or the largest component of the Greek migrant population in Australia goes back to the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, I would say that they have maintained the model of Greek culture that they brought with them at that specific juncture. Without saying that there is no other osmosis, there is, and there are influences from what goes on, from what went on later. But I would argue that the main cultural model is based on a model of the 1960s or 70s. So very strong on traditional dancing, on traditional Greek folk music. Yeah, those would be the characteristics. But I think it's like that in most diaspora communities, not just the Greek one.
Have we been stuck to 60s and 70s? That's true.
It is true.
That's true. Because we're missing the connection,
Which is-
the everyday connection.
I think which is why when we travel to Greece, a lot of the Greeks that we encounter say to us that the people of the diaspora are more Greek than the Greeks here. Now, what they actually mean by that, I think, is what you've just described yourself, Mr. Malikourtis.
Yes, when they say that, they mean that in Australia, you may find ways of entertainment or of culture which are more traditional in that sense. Yes.
I think
I wouldn't like to put a tag on what is more or less
Yes.
Greek. I don't want to go down that road. I don't agree with that argument in general.
I think it's other things as well, where, for example, the Parthenon marbles in the British Museum, it seems that diaspora are more passionate, and I found this personally from when I was in Greece, there's a bit more apathy towards the marbles returning, although that is changing and it's progressing to a little bit more of a momentum. Things like that, returning the marbles politically, with things that happen in politics in Greece really affect Greeks here in Australia as well and around the world when we talk about those challenges. Like the marbles, because I went to the Parthenon and I said, why isn't there a petition for people to sign? You get millions of visitors. Return the marbles. Be a little bit more proactive. And I found that proactiveness wasn't as evident or robust in Greece as it is here. That's where the diaspora comes together to fight more for those causes in Greece. What your view on that?
I would disagree with that because that is an issue that we attach great importance as a Greek government now and before previous Greek governments as well. And in the past few years, this issue has been at the forefront. So I would argue that actually this issue has become much more important now than it used to be.
That's very good.
In Greece as well. And it is followed by the public and it is always in the top news on the front pages of newspapers.
Has it made any progress?
I wouldn't know the details from here, from where I am in Sydney, so I don't want to comment on
Something you're
that
not sure of.
I'm not privy of yet.
Language. Our biggest fear as Greeks is losing our Greek language with each generation. We were fortunate. We spoke Greek at home because I came from Greek migrant parents. I spoke to my daughter in Greek. She couldn't speak English till she started preschool. It was a bit harder with her brother. Now they've got children. Where do you see the Greek language in 2 generations from now?
First of all, what I observed here, having stayed in Sydney for 3 years, I think it is a significant challenge for the community to maintain the language. It is understandable and it can be explained why there is what we call language attrition as we move from the generation of Greek Australians who were born in Greece and migrated to Australia to the generation of Greek Australians who were born here. It is expected. It's no surprise that it happens always. So the question is, how do we maintain it and how important it is for the maintenance of the identity and of the culture? I would argue that language should not be seen as a component of Greekness because then you would exclude many people who feel Greek but do not speak the language. But it is an essential tool to maintain the culture in the future. So what are the tools that I have at my disposal? Music, sport, even traveling to Greece, watching Greek traditions, dancing, music, all the rest. And of course, language. But language is more difficult than the other things I just described. It needs a larger commitment, both by the family, because a lot emanates from the family, whether we like it or not. I know that many Greek Australians don't like it when I publicly say that we have to do more at home, but I believe so.
I agree as well.
We have to do more at home. And believe me, I have the same challenges at my home because my children do not go to a Greek school due to my profession. So I also see that every day, that it is easy for them. Sometimes it is easier for them to express their feelings or their views in another language. And I try to democratically impose.
Practically is the key word. What you say is very true. My daughter, when you expose our kids to music, the theatre, sport, travel, it invigorates their curiosity and their desire to learn more. My daughter first travelled with her husband to Greece. His father's Greek, but his mum's Scottish. My daughter could communicate in Greek, and what motivated and inspired him, he said, you know what, I was really jealous that Amanda could speak Greek and I couldn't understand what she was saying. He started to learn Greek, and now I can have a conversation with him in Greek. And he cooks Greek, and mind you, he went to Greek dancing when he was little, but it took that trigger for my daughter to be able to speak Greek and him not being able to understand. He said, no, I have to learn. And I think that's where the younger generation traveling to Greece and falling in love with what they see, they want to be able to feel a part of that. And that's, I think, what we need to encourage, to expose them to things that their Greekness, not necessarily language, but everything that you just described. And the next step is, I've got to learn the language.
Yes, and there is a paradox here in terms of time. So Greeks today, Greeks in Australia, have more opportunities and live in a more multicultural environment than their grandparents or their parents. It is acceptable. You can be whatever you want in Australia. And at the same time, though, they have to face the challenge of language attrition. And you see, every day we see this in the consulate, young Greek Australians who are very proud of their roots, but do not speak a word of Greek. So this is a paradoxical situation, which I think if we work on that, the fact that they want to revitalize their roots and they feel very proud, we might have very good results in 30, 40 years.
And it's time.
I know when my mother first migrated to Australia, she came on invitation from the Australian government. She needed to have a certain level of English to qualify to come out. This may sound a little bit severe. Would you see a solution if someone wants a Greek passport, they have to attain a certain level of Greek language to be able to earn the right to that passport? Or you think that's a little bit extreme?
I think that would be probably extreme. There are three pathways to obtain Greek citizenship. The first is a simple registration of your birth, and most Greek Australians still fall under that category, likely. And this category refers to Greek Australians who have parents who are registered Greek citizens. Then there's another path, which means ascertainment of citizenship. So these are more complex situations. And then there is the most complex, let's say, naturalization. Naturalization pertains to those cases that go back 2 generations. So your parents are not Greek, and in many cases they have passed away, so the chain has broken. And in that case, you also have to prove a knowledge of Greek. So only in that case. Not to register your birth, the first category where most people fall under, at least in Australia, because this has to do with how far back we go to the first arrivals in one's family. So if you are a Kytherian or whose ancestors arrived in the 1890s, you might be eligible for citizenship only through naturalization. Mm-hmm. In that case, you will also have to prove a knowledge of Greek. But these are still small. It's a small percentage of the cases.
What have been some of your most memorable moments over the last 3 years during your time in Australia?
I would say most memorable was the expression of gratitude in the eyes of many Greek Australians who took the oath in front of me, who were sworn Greeks. That was the most moving moment for me. And I found it also rewarding existence here in Sydney. I felt that that can make a difference in someone's life.
It is very rewarding.
It's what you represent. You've come here as an ambassador of Greece, and you're watching people proudly taking on their citizenship.
I'm a Consul General. I don't have problems with my superiors. I'm not an ambassador.
No, when we say ambassador, we talk about in the context of a representative, not in the role of the ambassador.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, like if I see myself as an ambassador of the Greek language, for example, when I travel, in that context. We do want you back as the ambassador, though. We're going to lobby for that to make that happen. What will you miss from Australia? Is there anything that you have fallen in love with that you're going to miss when you go back to Greece?
The city is beautiful, but I will mostly miss the mentality of the people, what you call mateship, the egalitarian spirit that has really touched me. I feel that it is something that goes well with my personality.
Mr. Malikourtis, how were we? We were good with you as Australians? Greek Australian?
You were demanding, but that's my job. I'm here to address the Greek community's issues. So that was my job, to assist. So you were demanding, but not to the extent of being disrespectful, with very few exceptions. I would say that more than 90% of the people were very respectful and very loving.
What were those demands when you said people were demanding? Was it citizenship?
Yes, citizenship. The delays, the large waiting periods to get an appointment, and citizenship. I hope that we have improved in these 3 years. We have acknowledged publicly, and officials, dignitaries have come from Greece, that this is an issue that is of high priority to be addressed. And I'm in the pleasant position to say that since January, the situation in the consulate is much better. I have appointed local staff, and the numbers have increased significantly. How many citizenships we grant per day.
I can second that.
Yes.
Based on the feedback I've received the last year or so from people that had to deal with...
I was actually going to say, from my personal experience, I absolutely commend your staff. Impeccable. They go over and above to explain, to help, courtesy. My kids left and said, Mum, that was just outstanding service, over and above. So you're 100% correct. Whether that is an initiative of the Greek government or your very positive influence, it's had a flow-on effect to the rest of the community. So for that, we sincerely thank you.
Thank you. What I would like to say on that issue is no one's perfect, and we understand the shortcomings and we try to improve. But I would ask Greek Australians, when they want to be informed on an issue, to ask people that know about a specific issue and not depend on gossip or on rumors. Because some of the questions we receive every day have nothing to do with the reality, about military service and other issues.
Yes, they listen to Chinese whispers,
rumors.
People's perception, when all it takes is a phone call or an email, and it always gets... So leaving Australia, what's next for Mr. Malikourtis and family?
Next stop is back to headquarters in Athens, because we have a rule in the foreign ministry: when we serve 2 consecutive posts in a row, we have to go back. And I was in Cyprus for 4 years, 3 years in Sydney, and it's time to go back. And I'm sure you're going back with lots of friendships and people that would like to catch up with you when visiting Greece. I'm probably going to be one of them. Yes, I would really like to see my Greek Australian friends in Greece. Without the pressure of the position, you might see a more relaxed...
Without making you feel uncomfortable now, I have not met a single person, and I'm putting you on the spot, that has said one negative thing about you. Everyone is so sorry to see you leave Australia that they're actually in mourning. The next Consul General, and they say, whoever it is, he's got really big shoes to fill.
To fill, exactly.
Yeah.
Fortunately, he's also young and modern, and I'm sure he's going to do a great job.
So can we have the next name?
His name is George Skeberis.
Mr. George Skeberis. We look forward to welcoming you to Australia and hopefully onto the Greek Podyssey. And we'd like to thank Mr. Yannis not only for being on the Podyssey, but for his time and everything and his contributions
And his services.
and his
here in
services to
Australia.
Sydney and Hellenism in Australia.
Thank you to both. Thank you for your friendship and for giving me the honor to be on your show.
The honour's all ours.
That was very interesting. Before we go to the conclusion of the interview with Mr. Malikourtis, let's go to Natasha Karamichou for the 5-minute segment, our legal segment, and we'll come back.
It's time for our legal segment with Natasha Karamichou, your trusted voice on Greek legal matters for the diaspora and beyond. Before we begin, please note, the following segment is for informational purposes only and does not constitute legal advice. Always consult a qualified legal professional for advice specific to your situation. The views expressed are those of the speaker and do not represent formal legal counsel.
Hello, I'm Natasha Karamichou, and in the next 2 podcasts, we will navigate through the interesting but complicated topic of acquiring the Greek citizenship. Working with Greeks living abroad for some time now, I often receive the frustration and bitterness when the legal cases in Greece are not completed in the anticipated time, when bureaucracy takes over, and among them, the important issue of their acquiring the Greek citizenship is left unfinished and abandoned, resulting in the applicant's inconvenience. Thus, the process of acquiring the Greek citizenship is transformed from a joyful and optimistic process into a permanent struggle with the Greek state authorities. Why do we confront so many discrepancies when we want to acquire an attribute that we legitimately deserve? One of the reasons could be that Greeks living abroad submit copies of certificates without proof of their accuracy and not the original copies, or certificates that are not translated through the official translators of the Greek Ministry of Foreign Affairs or lawyers. According to the Greek Association for Human Rights, citizenship and nationality are the same. They both indicate the relationship between a person and a state to which he or she belongs, namely, he or she is a citizen. In Greek language, therefore, citizenship and nationality are synonymous. It is said that nationality is not given, you have it, while citizenship can be acquired. Every person acquires nationality at the moment of birth, similar to the nationality one of his or her parents bear, this is the law of blood, or under specific conditions, the nationality of the place of birth. During his or her lifetime, he or she may acquire a new citizenship voluntarily. In general, both terms denote the same relationship between a person and a state. In Greece, a 2020 law is currently in force for the acquisition of Greek citizenship with a number of updates, the last one being applied from the beginning of 2025. The scope of this law is to simplify the procedures for the naturalization of Greeks living abroad and to enhance the possibility of their effective participation into the country's political and social life, to reduce bureaucracy and speed up the examination of naturalization applications, as well as to ensure objectivity, transparency, and equality in the process. How can anyone acquire the Greek citizenship? First of all, by birth. The child of a Greek man or woman acquires Greek citizenship from birth. Anyone born in Greek territory also acquires Greek citizenship from birth, provided that he or she does not acquire foreign citizenship or provided that he or she is of unknown citizenship. Secondly, with recognition. A foreign child, Greek child, born out of wedlock of parents is legally recognized as a child with Greek citizenship, and he or she is fully assimilated to a child born within wedlock if parent recognized him or her, and if at that time he or she is under 18 years old. Thirdly, by adoption. A foreign child who was adopted before he or she turns 18 years old as a child of a Greek man or woman becomes Greek from the time of adoption. By enlistment in the armed forces. Greeks living abroad admitted to the military schools or enlisted in the armed forces as volunteers can automatically acquire citizenship. Greeks living abroad enlisting as volunteers in time of military recruitment or war may acquire Greek citizenship by application without further formalities. Last but not least, by naturalization. Naturalization is a lengthy and complicated process. This is why we will dive into it in our next podcast. For the moment, what you need to have in mind is that the children of Greeks living abroad who acquire Greek citizenship by naturalization become Greeks without any other wording if they are unmarried or under 18 years old at the date of acquisition of the Greek citizenship by the parents. Of course, many bureaucratic technicalities need to be respected until the citizenship acquisition is completed. Can we lose or be exempt from our Greek citizenship? We can. For example, due to the acquisition of a foreign, anyone can acquire a foreign nationality on his or her own free will, or if he's taken up a public service in a foreign state, given that the assumption of such service implies the acquisition of the citizenship of that state. For reasons of disqualification, any person who during his or her residence in a foreign country is acting in the interest of this foreign country, performing acts incompatible with his or her Greek status and contrary to the interests of Greece, can lose the Greek citizenship. Due to a declaration of renunciation, it is permissible to renounce the Greek citizenship when a person is an adult and declares that he or she has ceased to have a genuine link with a country and resides abroad. Other cases of exemption do exist as well. In our next podcast, we will focus on the process of naturalization and respective requirements.
First international location marks the debut of Roasting Warehouse outside Australia, a major global expansion milestone.
Prime location in Neos Cosmos, nestled in the cultural heart of Athens, easily accessible and surrounded by vibrant local life. A fusion of Roasting Warehouse's signature Melbourne-style cafe experience with the local Athenian vibe.
Partnered with Nikos Antsaras, two-time Hellenic barista champion, bringing world-class expertise and credibility.
Specialty coffee, locally roasted. High-quality beans roasted with precision and passion, offering a rotating menu of single origins and blends.
Curated food menu, Australian-inspired brunch, fresh pastries, and seasonal dishes tailored for the Greek palate.
Designed for experience. A stylish, modern cafe space built for connection, creativity, and quality coffee moments.
Hosting events, barista trainings, and tastings to engage local coffee lovers and professionals. Dream big, and life is better with great coffee.
We're back.
We're back, drawing to the end of another one. I really enjoyed that interview with Mr. Malikourtis, the content and the personality himself.
How difficult job is that? Must be very difficult.
Do you know, Nico, I saw Mr. Malikourtis at lots of events because he tried to get to as many events as he possibly could. And I would always think, how exhausting to be at the consulate all day and then having these events and then having to speak at these events. And it was just non-stop, ongoing. It looks like a glamorous job, traveling and being the Consul General, a diplomat from Greece, but it's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work and a lot of responsibility, if I can say so, because these departments are working under the Greek laws, not under the Australian laws. It's a lot of responsibility behind that. And we heard that from Mrs. Prokopakis as well the other day. But thing that he said about the Greek language and the Greek identity, that although that they're connected as part of the Greek identity, someone that doesn't speak Greek doesn't mean that he's not Greek. And I agree with that.
Absolutely. You can feel your Greekness without speaking. There are people that speak Greek, scholars, they studied at school or university, but have no connection to Greece or the Greekness.
Yes,
so
correct.
it's not all about language. Language is important to continue, but being Greek doesn't mean you need to speak Greek. And we know that from a lot of Hellenes.
Correct. Yes, that's true.
And just one other point on the Consul General, apart from the events and everything, you had personalities to deal with. A lot of people took their frustration out on, well, why can't I have this? The emotions, people wanting things yesterday or not understanding and having to deal with that. And I think he dealt with it impeccably. He will be very missed.
Yes, let's hope that the next one will be as good as
Like I said,
Mr. Malikourtis and
shoes.
even better.
Big shoes to fill. Anyway, that brings us to the end of this Podyssey. Thank you for joining us. Please subscribe and follow us on YouTube so you can See what I'm wearing on each episode? You can't do that.
Anyway, thank you very much for being with us for another episode. I hope we'll see you in the next one.
Lots of exciting things coming up. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
This podcast brought to you by Roasting Warehouse.
From Melbourne
To Brisbane,
and now in Athens,
Roasting Warehouse, shaping the global coffee culture.
dream big.
And life is better with great coffee. Roasting Warehouse.
I'm Christine Stavropoulos,
Και εγώ ο Νίκος Σαμίδης. Και αυτό είναι το Greek Podyssey, το podcast της Ομογένειας.
a podcast for Hellenes worldwide, sharing stories, culture, identity, laughs, and a little bit of tsugrisma along the way.
Γιατί μπορεί να φύγαμε από την Ελλάδα, αλλά η Ελλάδα δεν έφυγε ποτέ από μας.